I'm gonna take you guys through exactly how I not only program for myself, but also exactly what I do for clients. So if you want a simpler method to follow and a pattern to take you through your workouts, let's jump in. The key, I believe, to a great process or a great system is your ability to adapt it and use it for anyone. So what I'm gonna take you guys through here in this kind of whiteboard coaching session is not only what I do with clients, but truthfully, it's what I do for myself. And I think that oftentimes is a great indication of a great process and a system, especially if you're a coach and trainer. Why would you train your clients so drastically different than the way you train yourself as well? If you have strong feelings about training and what should happen inside of a training session. So for you guys, you can know this isn't me just making this up, this is what I do. And it's also, I'm gonna show you a flexible method that helps to guide exactly what I do with every client I work with. So this is gonna be my perfect training session. And I'll say as we start this video, if you guys are interested bigger picture in programming, feel free to leave a comment below this video. We do have some other resources that take a look at like the entire week. But here, I just want to think about one session, right? Like, what am I doing in that 60 minutes that I have, either for myself, because time is limited, or for my clients? And there's this balance that we have. We're trying to, essentially pack in as much good, high quality work as we can for all the things that our clients need, or you and I might need, to maintain fast twitch muscle fibers, to build strength, to build muscle, maybe some conditioning. Sometimes it can be confusing and like, how do I fit it all together? So I'm gonna show you guys what I do. So if you've been following any of my content for a period of time, or you've been following some of the Axiom Academy stuff, prep and prime are probably not brand new terms for you guys, right? Prep is gonna be us thinking about how do I start to get the body moving a little bit better for the workout I'm gonna do. Prime, kind of like it sounds, getting things juiced up and turned up, really helping to bridge the gap between what some people do as like mobility and warm-up work and more of our real training session to come. The way that I like to look at it, beyond kind of our warm-up section that I'm gonna break down for you guys, I look at what do most people need, especially if we're thinking about it long term. Well, I mean, the ability to build strength, whether it's true maximal strength or it's relative max strength, some focused strength work early on in the session, then being able to move into just some more hypertrophy work. I mean, obviously there's some crossover between these two, but a little bit more focused, just muscle building, maybe slightly higher rep ranges, slightly lower loads. And then moving on to either what I would call like pump or finish. And some of that's gonna depend on your program and your focus that day, as well as the person that you're working with. So let's start up here from the top, prep. So literally, no matter who comes in and works out with me, I already know, even if they come in and do some warm up on their own, most times they're not doing the focused mobility type work that we need to do for the areas that most people struggle, right? And they have issues. And a lot of that comes down to getting the shoulders and the hips moving better, and then maybe activating the core. And we could kind of isolate and think the glutes is part of the core too. So when I talk about 3 to 5 minutes of mobility, this could be where myofascial release and foam rolling would fit in if you're gonna do that. Oftentimes, that may take a lot of time, so I don't find myself doing the most of it, but if there's a singular area that we need to get moving better, foam rolling can fit in there. Otherwise, when we think about shoulders and hips and trying to be efficient with our training session, some of it's just thinking about what are the things that people need to be able to do once we get into our exercises. Well, a lot of people lack in extension of the thoracic spine. A lot of people also lack in range of motion at the glenohumeral joint, the shoulders or the hips. So here, in just 3 to 5 minutes, usually I'm trying to think maybe 3 or 4 moves, if you're thinking planning wise. 3 or 4 moves that I know this client needs, or like for me, I know that I need on a regular basis, and I'll show you the common ones that I do. Or also, as I start to think about my workout, are there a couple moves that I need to get this person moving better with so that we can perform well in our training session? So for a lot of people, this might come into a little bit of flexion and extension in the thoracic spine with things like cat-cows. This is also a really great opportunity for us to throw in just a little bit of rotation, all right? Which if you guys know anything about the body, we're very much rotational creatures, but a lot of people don't do a lot of it. So I find warm-up, prep especially, great place to start to introduce it. And you can keep it simple in the beginning, right? Even just for most people, if they could go through 8 to 10 thoracic spine rotations or some variation of thoracic spine rotation, this is probably one that I'm literally doing with every client every single day. And honestly, for almost all my workouts every single day. Not only because once you start doing it, you're like, man, this feels good, right? It feels good to do these moves before you get into your lifts, but it's just that movement. Nobody's doing this stuff on their own, right? We're all stuck in these positions all day. And even just that rotation can help us get better extension. Okay, so just a couple of ideas for you. And the nice thing, especially if you get into some of these variations, you're getting a little thoracic spine, you're maybe getting some shoulder range of motion. If not, we can hit a little bit better actual shoulder rotation with moves like this. And what you notice on these too is like these moves are active. You know, I'm not just passively stretching. I think especially if you're thinking, like for me, if it's a training session, I know I need to move, right? Like I need to move so my brain stops working and I just start getting focused on my workout. And if it's a client I'm working with, like movement creates energy. And so static stretching could come in here, but I find some of these movement exercises, they're gonna get the body temperature up a little bit better, right? Even just from doing those without moving around a lot. And then same thing for the hips and the core, right? So even if you just think kind of the same idea, you know, a lot of people lacking in internal, external rotation in the hips, any versions of like 90-90 type exercises and stretches are great, right? So the cool part is this actually an area for a lot of opportunity and a lot of variety. You know, even if like Monday to Monday, my training session stays the same, but I kind of change some of this prep work. You know, I'm starting my session a little different. That's good. I'm giving my body some variety in how it moves. But these, all of a sudden, even if I just did a couple of these moves, and then I start popping up and I'm getting into some bigger movements like bodyweight squats, everything's gonna be moving better, things are gonna be feeling better. And the cool part is, if you're efficient, 3 to 5 minutes. We're not talking a long time. We're not talking 20-minute warm-ups, because we do need to get into the work. So the only thing that could be missing here for some people, especially if they've got like some real tight hip flexors, or maybe we need to work a little bit more on core and glute engagement, this is also a really great place just to throw like a single isometric in there. So if you're doing some of the hip work on the ground, that could be right after some of my, you know, mobility for the shoulders and for the hips. Maybe I'm going right into maybe just 30 seconds of some isometric little hip bridges. You know, I'm getting some glute engagement. I'm also shutting down some of the activity in the hip flexors and quads. Another great one a lot of people need, some lateral subsystem work, working on some variation of like a lateral plank, anything like that. So I'm sure hopefully this gets your guys' brain thinking a little bit. But for me, this piece is huge, right? And what we're doing here and what we come into here sets us up for everything else. And I think this is a big mistake that not only a lot of people make on their own, right, when you're working out in the gym and you get months and years down the road and you got all these little aches and issues and injuries like I've dealt with. This is a great way to continue to strengthen that system, but it's also an opportunity to kind of build us up, right? Where by the time we hit this real strength work, like our body is primed and ready to go. All right, so if we did a good job here in this 3 to 5 minute mobility, now is the chance to say, okay, what else do we need to accomplish inside of our warm up? Well, we need to increase body temperature, right? So we get some more viscoelasticity in the tendons and ligaments. We also need to increase like our nervous system activation, because this stuff feels good and it gets us moving. But if we're going to get ready to move some heavy weights or just some relative challenging resistance, we need to kind of get the nervous system firing, right? Nervous system firing. Also, if you guys are seeing anything out there these days on longevity, right? Like probably one of the hottest terms in health and fitness, and for good reason. Longevity, fast twitch muscle fibers. Everybody starts to lose them, right? For me, I'm now in like my mid to late 30s, and I understand it. I'm not as twitchy and quick as I used to be, and if we don't use it, we're gonna lose it. And so I think regardless of the age category, this is also an opportunity for us to throw in like some skill work, a little bit of agility, maybe some power. It's gotta be appropriate for who you're working with, but I know for me, like my main goal is to try not to let my little girls beat me in a race. So like this is me trying to stay like a little bit explosive and athletic inside of here. And so I'll show you guys, there's a lot of ways we can do this. And the thing that I like about this prep and prime thought process is it's flexible, right? You can do a lot of different things in here. In general with prime, it could be foundational versions of the exercises you're gonna do. Like if I'm gonna do some heavier squatting, maybe one of these moves in my prime circuit is like a stability-based squat, where I'm going slow down, maybe a little iso pause at the bottom. I'm not trying to fatigue the body, but maybe getting 2 sets of 4 to 6 reps like this. It's carrying over from my mobility work, and now it's getting everything else fired up, right? My central nervous system is starting to increase activity to the muscles I'm going to be using somewhere down here. So for me, I look at it, I usually end up doing this as like a 2 or 3 exercise circuit for 2 rounds. Okay, like I mentioned, the idea is to get the body juiced up and turned on, not get it totally fatigued, all right? Because the real challenging stuff's gonna come in here. So oftentimes this is like a stability-based move. So I showed you guys maybe a slower tempo version of that goblet squat. If I'm doing some more single leg strength in this next set, maybe it's just slow tempo, static lunge, you know, something unilateral just to get more stabilizers fired up. So there's that component. It could also be, when we talk about stability, this could also be a little higher level core engagement, right? So when I talk about stability, that could also be something like an X touch, right? Or maybe I'm in this like bear position where now I'm really tying together. It's not just core, right? I'm tying together my shoulders, my hips, my core. I'm really getting everything firing and working together, okay? So I think there's a lot that goes into how you pair these things together, but oftentimes stability and power, or maybe even stability, power, and rotation. Because I think this is another one, like I mentioned, a lot of people, they don't do a lot of rotating on their own, but we do in real life. And so I think if we integrate a little bit here in mobility, also a good opportunity to do some rotation while we're fresh, which I think is nice. If we're gonna add it in, I want the body to be fresh. And the cool part is it can also be great for the hips, all right? So I'll give you guys just a quick example of a set that I might go through and do here. So let's say we're talking about a full body training session, which as you see as we'll go through here, this framework can be applied to like upper body, lower body, full body. I'm gonna talk about it in full body because that tends to be the most common with clients. But let's say we're doing like a full body workout session and we want to do a nice little prime, maybe 2 rounds through. Well, I could take this first exercise, just this goblet squat. Maybe we're going through 4, 3, 2, popping out of the bottom, right? I'm focusing on core tension. I'm squeezing that kettlebell. Good slow tempo, good mobility. Fire up out of the hole. And I'm only doing maybe like 4 to 6 reps. High quality, low quantity. High quality, low quantity at this stage. And then I would go into some sort of power work. You know, maybe this is my opportunity to do something that's a little bit of like power and agility, maybe some skaters, and they don't have to be huge, just focused on getting my nervous system fired up with a little bit of power. This could also be simpler. Maybe I'm just doing some broad jumps or some vertical jumps, okay? So as you can see, even from a body temperature standpoint, I'm not running, I'm not doing cardio, my body temperature is going up, and the cool part is as we pair together some of that stability, strength work with the kettlebell to the power, the jump, nervous system's now fired up a lot, right? So my muscles are primed and ready for work. And then maybe third, this is an opportunity to bring the intensity down a little bit. This is where I could throw in some rotation. You know, here, a band, a cable, med ball even. And the goal is not to do so much where I'm fatiguing the body, but I'm getting the hips, the spine, the core, everything working together, all right? So if you take a look at those 3, it's like, man, I'm really hitting the entire body inside that set. But it doesn't have to be like a fast circuit, right? I'm gonna get through each of those, low reps, high quality, rest for 30, 60 seconds, maybe do it 2 times. And what I'm looking for, especially if I'm training a client, is I'm looking for maybe a little bit of this, right? I'm seeing them breathing a little bit, I got a little bit of maybe a little sweat coming off the brow. Because I know, like, if we get to that point, not only the cool part is we're still getting real high quality work in here, right? We're getting movement, we're getting a little bit of athleticism, we might be getting some fast twitch muscle fibers. Great, right? Almost everybody needs some of that work, especially if they want to stay moving long term. And then the cool part is like by the time I'm in my first set in our strength work, I'm ready to go. I'm not going to need as many warm-up sets because my body's already ready and primed. Yeah, and the cool part from here, we're talking maybe 10 minutes. Right? From start to finish, 3 to 5 minutes of mobility. This one, maybe another like 5, 6 minutes for us to get through. And if it's a client, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, that was the warm up? Like we're not working out yet? Because it all really flows together. It all flows together. And just to give you guys an example or two, because you might be thinking, Joe, I don't train clients who can jump, right? So how do I apply some of this stuff? Well, again, it can look different. That's why I like to give you just kind of the setup, stability, all right? Maybe that stabilization move. It could be the body weight squat. Right? Slow, controlled tempo as far as your stability work goes. It could be a lighter band, right? Maybe you're doing some pull-off presses and you're pressing out for some anti-rotation, okay? Or maybe even just light rotation with the band. And then from there, maybe for the power and rotation, we combine it, right? This could be an easy way. Even, I'm going to tell you for even deconditioned general population, light medicine balls, especially even like 4s, 6s, great way to integrate a little bit of power and a little rotation. You know, it could be getting a little med ball throw to you. Maybe I'm throwing it against the wall. Maybe there's a little bit of an overhead slam. Either way, I think the cool thing is it's an opportunity to get our body moving in ways that we don't normally do when we just come into the gym and we sit down on the leg press and we do a warm-up set, which is fine. It's fine if hypertrophy is your only goal. But I'm going to tell you from working with clients for a long time, a lot of people want to feel good out in the real world, and it's a good opportunity to do some of that stuff. All right, so if we've done a great job here, and I can tell you even for me, this is the stuff that makes me feel the best day to day, right? Keeps my body feeling good when I'm out playing with my girls and I'm jumping off the playground and like hoping something doesn't tweak when I get down there. This is the stuff that's doing it, okay? Now let's get into the meat and potatoes, probably the stuff you're thinking about most, like the main part of our session. And again, I have it kind of sectioned off into strength, which can be relative strength. You'll see with our rep ranges, I'm not doing true max strength with a lot of people, and really even with myself, rep range wise. But then moving into hypertrophy, a little bit of muscle building, and then based on the person, something fun to finish off with, maybe a little bit of conditioning if that's what they need and they want. But either way, I think that the big piece is we've gotten some good high quality work. What comes next has to be the hardest part, right? Like what comes next needs to be our hardest lift of the day. What is the one lift where if that's the only thing you did, what would it be, all right? And so if you look at your workout and you think about your training session, that one needs to come first, okay? That's gonna be our priority. And for me, I like the idea and the opportunity to say, hey, if I'm gonna try to accomplish some relative strength work, which I think if you look at general population and even how I train, this might be in the 4 to 8 rep range. You know, I think even if you're training 4 to 5, 4 to 6 reps relatively heavy, you're gonna get some strength work happening here, all right? If you get below that 4 to 6 reps, sometimes the technique, the risk-to-reward ratio, it's not always in everyone's favor. So just some general there. But anyways, I'm gonna have a strength exercise, and this could be your main compound move. Maybe for some clients, it's a goblet squat, like I did. Maybe this is your hex bar deadlift. Right? Maybe this is your back squat. Maybe it's your dumbbell or your barbell bench press. Whatever it is that you determine like, hey, this is a priority lift for today, that one's gonna come first. Now, what I will say on here next, again, because this is Joe's perfect training session, but it's flexible, ideally, I like to then do one more power move, okay? So I'm gonna do something kind of powerful, a little twitchy, maybe something kind of agility based here in my prime, and then this one's gonna be more like a power move, something that, hey, it's gonna be more focused, lower body power or upper body power, and that's dependent upon this exercise. So in my training session, if it's a full body workout, this is likely to be a lower body move right here. I'm gonna prioritize that first. Let's say it's hex bar deadlift. The second move might be a broad jump. It might be a box jump. It might be a single leg explosive exercise, but it's gonna be of a similar movement pattern in muscles. That's contrast training, right? Ton of research on that, very effective. But for me, it's just another opportunity to say, hey, while I'm still relatively fresh, let me get a little bit of power work in here as well. And then the third exercise is gonna be something to unload the body. So most often for me and for the clients I work with, this is a full body training session. So if this first exercise is a lower body exercise, lower body strength, lower body power, upper body, all right? Unloading. I'm giving the legs some rest. And when I say unloading, there's some other things to think about here, right? If I'm thinking about a hex bar deadlift, a lot of posterior chain, a lot on the grip, right? My body resisting that weight pulling me forward. So chances are, I'm probably not gonna go to a back exercise, all right? I'm gonna do something pressing here. So if this is a hex bar deadlift and this is some sort of jump, this might be a dumbbell chest press, okay? So unloading the body, letting these other muscle groups rest while I'm doing that other exercise. I'll tell you guys, if you're doing full body type work, this is a very efficient way to train. It's also, for a lot of people, myself included, a very fun way to train, right? Because you by no means have to. Some of you guys might be like, well, Joe, if I'm doing lower body only, like how would that work out? Well, if you're doing a lower body only session, you might just get rid of A3, right? You just might only do A1 and A2. Right, that's the idea of this being a flexible framework. But for a lot of people training full body, this can be effective. The other thing too, you might be like, Joe, I don't know, we did a little bit of power here. We did this med ball throw, and I have some relatively deconditioned clients, and I don't know that it's appropriate for them to do another power move. I like that, right? I don't argue with that. Guess what? Get rid of A2, right? And then all of a sudden, you're just doing a primary strength exercise and then an unloading exercise, right? lower body, upper body, or vice versa. You very well could have your upper body exercise first. I'm cool with that. You know, you might be prioritizing like barbell bench press one day, and maybe you might be doing barbell bench press followed by plyometric explosive push-ups, right? High quality reps. And then you may be resting the upper body while you're doing like some reverse lunges, right? That third exercise might be like a single side reverse lunge. And you can see I stagger some of the reps in priority here because I find this one is going to be more central nervous system taxing. We're going a little heavier. So oftentimes I like to go, again, it's still not easy, but like a little bit higher rep range, slightly lower loads on that third exercise. But it's meant to be flexible. Primary strength, upper or lower, power move that mimics it if that's appropriate, and then unload with something on the opposite side of the body. All right, so that alone right here, guys, we're probably talking 20 minutes of good work. All right, we're talking 15 to 20 minutes if you're gonna get through 3 rounds. So some of these things you're thinking, right? We're talking 3 to 5 minutes here, maybe another 3 to 5 minutes. At this point, we're around 10 to 12 minutes as we transition in. Now we're coming into this next block, which we gotta be smart about, and we gotta keep our eye on the time, because based on how well conditioned someone is, how much rest time, on the lower end, it's gonna probably be 15 minutes. On the higher end, 20, okay? So now all of a sudden, we're already 30, 35 minutes into our session. And for me, guys, that's oftentimes a good indication, is I'm looking, if I really went hard on this set, again, if this was all I did in the workout, probably would be a good workout, right? Like I would walk away saying, hey, I accomplished some good work today. I think that's good programming, if we can say that. And the other piece is like, hey, okay, cool, right around the 30-minute session, I need to be around here if I'm gonna have time to get through the rest, okay? So if we've done that though, cool, we've done now some good strength work. Now it's an opportunity for us to work into, just again, there's like more 8 to 12, 8 to 15 rep ranges. We've already done some priority heavier lifting. And so this is where, again, maybe I did upper body priority here, then this might be lower body priority. If I did lower body priority here, this might be upper body. That way, in each set, this first exercise is gonna be the one you're going the hardest on. Okay, so just something to keep in mind and think about as you're choosing exercises. So I'll give you guys a good example. If this was maybe a hex bar deadlift, this was a jump, and this was a dumbbell chest press, this is gonna be primary back move, right? If this is a full body workout, I'm gonna do, challenging 8 to 10 reps, dumbbell rows, lat pull downs, pull-ups, something there, because I haven't trained the back yet directly. Okay, so just kind of giving you guys thought process how to go through. And then same idea, here I'm gonna unload. So at this stage, me personally, I'm still not working into single joint stuff yet. Biceps, triceps, hamstring curls, shoulder raises. Doesn't mean you couldn't, but for the most part, I'm gonna keep it pretty compound up until this point. So we'll have a primary exercise there, and then unload the body. So if this was the hex bar deadlift and we went with some sort of like back exercise here, this might be a lunge or a squat pattern, okay? And now we can start to see how everything's kind of fitting together in this bigger picture with our primary and our unload. All right, and then last but not least here, pump or finish. This now, hey, guess what? I've accomplished a lot of the big work I've done for the day. I'm probably, if I've done a great job, I'm probably at about the 45-minute session here, right? Or 45-minute point. Because again, 30-minute point here, maybe another 10 to 12 minutes to get through this superset a couple of times. And then I've got some time for a finish. And so I think based upon you and your goals, for me, oftentimes this might be getting in some accessory work, maybe getting in some direct hamstring work, maybe getting some direct like bicep, tricep work that I haven't gotten in the workout yet, based on my day and my preferences. Or for some clients, or for me some days as well, maybe it's working in like some sled work. I might have, a bicep exercise with some sled pushes, or a tricep exercise with some carries. So there's a lot of opportunity to have some fun here, and I think, especially if you're thinking about client sessions, this is an important one. Think about like what's gonna be fun for them to finish, what are some things we haven't worked on yet that we know is gonna be a memorable way for them to cap off this training session. So hopefully this gives you guys a little bit of the bigger picture of like, okay, what all goes into thinking about that singular session, and how can I efficiently really accomplish a lot of good stuff in here. As I mentioned, as you get better with some of your timings, you're gonna find some clients, this might be where like, hey, you know what? They're not getting through all this. I need to prioritize this with a superset and work my way through. And if you do it right, the same framework can work well for full body, which is my favorite for most people. I think it's flexible, it's time efficient, but it can also work for like lower and upper. all right? Or maybe even I'm doing like push-pull on one day and I'm doing like legs and arms on the other. There's a lot of ways that you can split up your week, and that's beyond what we're covering in this video. But once we've got that figured out, I think you can still pretty closely follow this framework. And if you do, good part is you're gonna get people moving better, which is always a plus, good for me. You're gonna get them also moving in different directions, maybe doing a little bit of athleticism, fast twitch power work. And then we've got, strength work, building, essentially building and maintaining strength, building muscle, and maybe a little bit of some fun finish or even some conditioning at the end. And so we're able to accomplish a lot inside that 60 minutes if you're efficient. I hope this was helpful for you guys. And if you guys like this kind of content, leave me a comment below. I'm happy to go through and break down like example workouts. This is meant to be more of the frame and the thought process, but we can get into exact programs and exact workouts as well. I'll see you guys again.